Hi math class, I hope you all had a nice and relaxing long weekend. Welcome back to another lesson. Great work last week, showing all of your work and calculations when finding area, organizing and solving your number families and missing numbers in your table, practicing your multiplication and your division facts, so keep up the awesome work. In today's class, we're going to be looking at lesson 68, parts 1 through 5. So let's get started. So I'll read what it says in our book. So open up and look at part 1. These are multiplication problems with 6. So all of the various problems you're going to be working on, all are multiplying by the number 6. So we're practicing our 6 times table. So you can skip count by 6s, or we could use our multiplication chart and look at our 6 column to find all of the answers. So you can pause the video now, and then I'll see you guys in part 2. So welcome back to part 2. So we've learned to write fractions for sentences that have names and numbers. So we've written ratios previously where we have a sentence when it names two things, and then we have to write a ratio or a fraction for that sentence. So the sentences in part 2 for today are different. They don't give both numbers for the fraction. So let's look at the example fraction that we have. The example says there are 5 cans in every box, right? So the first thing, or the first blank, what we have to fill in is using words, right? So we're comparing cans and the box. And then it tells us that there are 5 cans in every box, right? So it'll be 5 cans, the number 5, for every box, but it's for every one box. So underneath, we're going to have to write the number 1. So let's look at part A. We'll do this one together. It tells us that there are 6 fish in each pond, right? So in our first blank, right here, we're going to have to use words to describe the two things we're comparing, right? There are 6 fish in each pond. So we're comparing the number of fish in each pond. So fish will be our top number, and then pond will be our bottom number, just like that. In our second blank, right, we're going to write our fraction or our ratio. So if we look at our original sentence, it says there are 6 fish, right? So fish, we're going to put 6 in each pond, right? It's only one pond. So I'm going to write 1, right? So now we have fish over pond. And how many fish do we have? We have 6 fish in one pond, or 6 fish in each pond, right? So now what I want you guys to do is, using what we have in our example and what we did in part A, look at problems B and C and fill them in. So once again, you're going to want to write using words the two things you're comparing, and then right beside it, you're going to write the fraction with numbers. So you can pause the video now, and then I'll see you guys in part 3. So welcome back to part 3. I'll read what it says in our book. So we're looking at equivalent fractions. The pictures show pairs of fractions that are equal. For each problem, you'll write the two fractions that are equal, and you'll show what you multiply the first fraction by to get the other fraction. So once again, guys, we're looking at equivalent fractions. So you're given two images, and what we have to show is how they're equal. So let me draw it right here for you. So let's look at part A. Right? We have, let me draw these images. So all we're trying to do is show that these fractions are equal. Fractions are equal when they have the exact same number of space that is shaded in. Right here. And then we have a few blanks that we have to fill in. So you guys, if you look on part 3, you are given, for part A, these two images, right? So what we're trying to show is that this image is equal to this image. So what it asks us to do is, in this very first blank right here, we're going to write the fraction for the first picture for part A. Right, so when we're writing our fraction, what we have to write is, is that our top number is how many parts are shaded. So if you look at part A, the very first picture, we can see that 1, 2, 3 parts are shaded. So 3 will be our top number in the first blank. The bottom number will be how many parts are in 1 unit. This is 1 unit, right? So there are 1, 2, 3, there are 4 parts. So our fraction will be 3/4, or 3/4. We'll leave this blank, the second blank, for now, and we'll go over to our last blank, which is right after the equal sign. What we're going to write in this blank is the fraction for the second image for part A. Right, so if we look, we can see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parts that are shaded. So 6 will be our top number, and then our bottom number will be how many parts are in 1 unit. Right, this is 1 unit, so there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 parts. So 8 will be our bottom number. So for the second image, our fraction is 6/8. Now what we have to do is fill in this missing fraction. All it's asking us to do is to look at the first fraction and the last fraction and figure out what do we have to multiply this first fraction by to get the second fraction. If both of these fractions are equal, which we know they are, both our top number and our bottom number will be the same number. Right, so 3 multiplied by what number will give us 6? Right, 3, 6, it's 2. So 3 multiplied by 2 will give us 6. Now we have to figure out the bottom numbers. 4 multiplied by what number will give me 8? Right, it'll also be 2. So since both of my top and bottom numbers in the second column are the same, that tells me that this fraction and this fraction, or this image and this image, are equal, or they have the same parts that are shaded. So once again, what we did is we looked at part A. We have 2 images. In our first blank, we wrote the fraction for this first image. And then in our last blank, after the equal sign, we wrote our fraction for the second image. For the middle column, what we had to do is figure out how did we get from this first fraction to the second fraction, right? And what we wanted to do, or what we wanted to end up with, is the same top number as our bottom number. If they're the same, that tells us that these fractions are equal or equivalent. So what I want you guys to do now is to look at part B. Once again, you have 2 separate images. In the first blank, you're going to write the fraction for your first image. In your third blank, after the equal sign, you're going to write the fraction for the second image. Then for the second blank, or this middle blank for part B, you're going to want to figure out what you have to multiply your first fraction by to get your second fraction. And you want to have the same number on the top as you do on the bottom, because they are equal. So you can pause the video now, and then I'll read part 4. So part 4 is in your textbook, and it's looking at division. So I've attached an image from your textbook, so if you could, please open that up now, and then we'll read through it together, and we'll go through it. So once again, we're going to look at part 4, and I've attached the image for you guys to look at. So in part 4, it tells us this division problem is different from those you have worked. It's 392 divided by 4, right? So this is the problem they're looking at. 392 divided by 4, right? What they want us to do is first write it so that the big number, or 392, is underneath the division sign. So I'm going to just rewrite this problem so that we have 392 underneath the division sign with the 4 going right in front of the division sign. Right, so now we have this. So the underlined part is 39. The reason they have 39 underlined is, right, we're going to look at the 4 and try to divide it into the first number. 4 cannot divide into 3, so what we're going to do is look at the next two numbers. 4 can divide into 39, right? 4 goes into 39 how many times? Right? 6. So 9, right? 4 multiplied by 9 will give us 36. So I'm going to write the 36 right underneath. So you work the problem by changing the line under 39 into a division sign and writing the number for the 4's under the sign. So then you work the problem under the new division sign and write the answer above. The answer is 9, right? So what we did is we know that 4 cannot go into 3, 4 can divide into 39, right? So 4 times 9 is 36. So now what we have to do now is subtract, right? So the difference between 39 and 36 is 3. That's the remainder. So what we have to do now is subtract 39 from 36, which will give us 3. What we want to do is carry the remainder and write it in front of the next digit, right? So 39 minus 36 will give us 3. So I'm going to write that 3 right over here, right in front of the 2. So now what we have is 32, right? So now what I'm going to do is divide this 4 into 32. 32 divided by 4 is 8. So here's the underlining for the last digit answer. So once again, what they want us to do is we're going to start working on problems that have a remainder, right? 4 cannot divide evenly into 39. 4 can go into 39 9 times, right? Which gives us 36. 39 minus 36 gives us a remainder of 3. So we're going to move that in front of the next digit. And then we're going to try dividing the 4 into the next two numbers, right? 4 goes into 32 an even number of times this time, which is 8. So our answer is 98. So that's all they want us to do for this part. They just want us to focus and look at this, because in our next lessons, we'll look at these types of problems with a remainder. So now what I want you guys to do is continue with part 5 on your worksheet. So let's look at part 5. It asks us to use the information that the facts give us to write 4 numbers in the table. Then you're going to fill in the rest of the missing numbers. After that, you have a few questions on the next page to answer. So I'll quickly draw this chart and then we can complete some of the missing numbers. So we're comparing how many ducks and geese were on Clear Lake and Long Lake. This will be clear, this will be long, and this will be total for both. Then we have ducks, then we have geese, and then we have the total for both birds. Right, so this is our chart that you guys are going to have to fill in. So first we're going to start with our 4 facts. Fact 1 tells us the total geese seen on both lakes is 545. Right, so the total geese for both lakes is 545. 5. So that's our first number. Fact 2 tells us 256 ducks were seen on Long Lake. Right, so we're going to look at ducks and Long Lake, and it's going to be 256. Fact 3 tells us 438 geese were seen on Clear Lake. Right, so I'm going to look at Clear Lake and the number of geese, and it's 438. Fact 4, we have to change it before we can input the number. Fact 4 tells us on Clear Lake, there were 351 fewer ducks than geese. 351 is not the number we're going to put into our chart, right? That's our difference number. So for fact 4, we're going to have to make a difference family. So I'll draw it right here, right? So our difference number is going to be 351, right? We have our keyword fewer. 351 is our difference number, right? Then we have to figure out, were there more ducks or were there more geese on Clear Lake? It tells us that there were 351 fewer ducks than geese. So there were more geese, I'll put a G here, right? And then there were less ducks, so ducks is going to be our small number. Right? If we look at our chart, we know how many geese there were on Clear Lake. There were 438. So geese will be 438 on Clear Lake. We know that there's a difference of 351. So what we need to find out is how many ducks were on Clear Lake. Right? This is our big number, this is our small number, we're looking for a small number. So what we're going to have to do is subtract 438 minus 351. If you subtract that, your answer will be 87. Right? 8 minus 1 is 7. I can't do 3 minus 5, so I'm going to have to borrow. That becomes a 3. 13 minus 5 is 8, and then 3 minus 3 is 0. So we know that there were 87 ducks on Clear Lake. So now you have enough information with your 4 numbers that you inputted to solve for the other missing numbers. Remember, if we're going down, right, this will be your small number, this will be your small number, this will be your big number if you're making a number family going down. If you're going across, this will be your small number, this will be your small number, and then this will be your big number. So what I want you guys to do now is we filled in the first 4 numbers, make your number families, find the rest of the other 5 numbers, and then once you filled in your chart, you have a few questions on the back to fill in. So great work today, guys. You can pause the video now. You can finish up finding the rest of your numbers and then answer the questions. So I'll see you guys in our next class. Bye.